Hey guys, and welcome to the Kansas Flamingo Chef. It's kind of a somber occasion for me. Today is Sunday, and I'm going to cook gumbo. And usually I'm really excited to cook gumbo, but 2 days ago my father passed away, and I had intended to make gumbo this weekend for him, but obviously sometimes God has other plans. So as we do this today, I just want to remind you to be with your loved ones. And if there's something that they really enjoy that you make, take some time and do it for them. Sorry for my demeanor, but anyway, behind me you're going to see a lot of stuff because the gumbo I'm doing is the way my dad liked it. And I'm sorry for the shaky camera. My hands are kind of shaky. So let's take a look at what I got. Let's get started. There's a lot of stuff here. So to make gumbo, one thing you absolutely have to have is your Cajun Trinity. So I've got chopped onion. This is actually sweet Vidalia onion because it's what I happen to have. I'm making a lot of gumbo, so understand these quantities are about twice as much as you normally use. So this is 2 medium onions. You really probably need 1. This is chopped green pepper, again 2 full peppers. This is chopped celery, and that's a whole stalk of celery. You need a stock itself, and I'm going to use fish stock. So if you have seen some of the others I've done, this is Better Than Bouillon seafood base. I really love the Better Than Bouillon stuff. It just makes tremendous stock. This is chicken. This is just chicken breast. This is about 2 pounds. Normally you probably use a pound. This is the, as I call, special add-ons. You can add just about anything in the world to a gumbo. I happen to have a couple of lobster tails, just small ones sitting around that I chopped up, and also some catfish fillets that needed to be used. Then we've got crayfish. This is cooked crawfish meat. This is about 2 pounds of crawfish, give or take. And andouille. If you've never had real Cajun andouille, this stuff is fantastic. This one actually happens to be a Zatarain's andouille, but you can use any kind of andouille. Last but not least, Gulf shrimp. I've got about 2 pounds of Gulf shrimp here. And then one more just for fun to add on. These are raw oysters. Other than that, you're going to need your spices. And you're going to need flour and butter. Because the first thing you got to do is you got to make a roux. Let's get started on the roux. So roux is really nothing but fat and flour. But a few things that I want to talk about are utensils that you ought to have handy while you're doing this. You absolutely need a whisk. I usually have 2 different kinds. I've got a wire whisk, and I've also got the rubberized whisk. You need a spatula, very important. And I've got 2 slotted spoons, again, 1 metal, 1 rubberized. If you don't have these tools, I promise you're going to be scurrying around your kitchen trying to save yourself before you burn the roux, and you don't want to do that. As far as things you're going to need while you cook, well, you're going to need flour, so we got flour. Butter, I recommend you use really good butter, not just cheap butter. I prefer salted butter, but if you just want to use unsalted butter, that's fine too, but you're probably going to be adding salt. We need some minced garlic. I've got hot sauce. In this case, I like Louisiana hot sauce. I've got Tony Chachere's here, my Creole seasoning. Bay leaves. Gumbo filet. This is probably one of the most important ingredients there is. I add a little bit of curry powder, and I also like some Creole mustard. Those are just my personal add-ons. And then the very last thing you absolutely must have for gumbo, otherwise it's not gumbo, is okra. But okra goes in last, so we're not going to mess with that yet. First thing we got to do is melt some butter and start making some roux. So put your heat at about medium and just throw some butter in here. The secret to making roux is be patient. Just let the butter melt and then start adding flour and just keep stirring it until you get it to the color that you want your gumbo to be. In this case, I'm going to cook this to almost a chocolate brown, kind of a milk chocolate color. You can go anywhere from peanut butter on, but I promise you it has more depth of flavor if you'll get it to a deep chocolate brown. Progress on the roux. This is about close to 20 minutes. And you can see we're just past peanut butter color. I'm going to get it, it's almost like a kind of a caramel latte at this moment color-wise. But at this point, you're not going to stir it very often because you want it to start to really brown, but at the same time, you don't want to just let it sit on the bottom of the pan, otherwise you'll burn that flour. So you probably got about another 10 minutes, and then we'll be at a milk chocolate color. That's about where I'm going to get started. Okay, so let's move the camera over so you can see the color. And we're at that dark milk chocolate range. So we're going to go ahead and put our trinity in here. Celery, bell peppers, and onions. I'm also going to add some salt, and I like crushed sea salt. I'm not big on the just Morton salt in the bucket. And also some pepper, just black pepper. And I promise you, you will smell these vegetables cooking within a couple of seconds. What you want to do now is mix this in with the roux. Okay, this is the long process, because what we're going to do is let these vegetables cook down until they're mushy. But we can't let the roux burn, and it will very quickly, especially now that the liquid's cooked out. So we got to keep moving this around, but we're also going to add our spices as we go. So I'm going to add some Louisiana hot sauce, and because it's going to blend in so fast, if you are sensitive to odors, now would be a good time to have the fan on. Garlic, and there's no such thing as too much garlic. A little bit of curry powder, not very much, maybe half a teaspoon. We're going to mix that around again. And I assure you, the flavor, the odors are pretty intense right now. I mean, it can knock you down pretty easily. All right, so I'm going to add some gumbo filet, and we're going to do this about 3 different times. Probably about a teaspoon or a little bit more there, and also some Creole mustard. I like quite a bit of mustard in this, and some Tony Chachere's. Okay. One other thing I am going to put in this, because it's primarily a seafood gumbo, and I'm going to do that shortly after I get all this combined, is I'm going to add some Old Bay, just to give it that depth that you get from the Old Bay seasoning. So you can see, hopefully, and I'll pull a spoon up, that's actually gotten darker as we work. And that's why I stopped it just past that milk chocolate color, because it's going to be really, really dark brown. All right, so the next thing we got to do now, as the vegetables cook down, is we've got to add our stock. Now I've got about a half a gallon of stock ready. If I need more, then I'm just going to add water. You can also add red wine to this. Tremendous idea because it builds some body. But with all the stuff I'm putting in it with the fish, I'm not going to add any red wine. Could use a little white wine if you wanted to. So you put your stock in. You'll know instantly how much you need if you need more, and I promise you we're going to need more. Because as you stir this together, it's all going to come down to how thick it winds up being. Really blend this together as good as you can. Just keep stirring it. This is why I told you need a spatula, because at this point you want to make sure you get the stuff off the sides of the pot as best you can to get it all down in there into your soup. And we're going to whisk this together. Alright, it looks about right. We're probably going to add a little more liquid here in a little bit, but for now, that's about the right consistency. So, we're going to start adding meats. I always start with the chicken because it takes the longest to cook. So we're going to just put the chicken in here. And grab a spoon and just move it around. And let that chicken cook for at least 5 to 10 minutes before you add anything else, because you're going to see where your consistency is and if you need to add more liquid. Okay, so the chicken has been cooking for about 5 minutes, and you can probably see this is a lot thicker now. So we need to add some more water, just like I told you we would. I've got another half gallon of water here. I'm going to add about half of it, so probably a quart. And stir that together again. Remember, you want it to be kind of a thick soup, but you don't want it to be mud. So you can continually add small amounts of water until the consistency is the way you like it while it's cooking. And keep in mind that water is going to cook down. Now I am going to turn the heat up a little bit. We're going to add our next meats, which in this case is going to be the catfish and the lobster, because they are the ones that take the most time to cook that I have left. And we'll stir that in together as well. And we'll let that simmer for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm cutting up some okra, and I'm going to cut up probably a pound of okra. This is all okra that I had in my freezer that I grew in my garden. It's my personal favorite way to do it. Not a big fan of packaged stuff, but if you have to use packaged stuff, just use frozen pre-cut okra. It'll work just fine. Okay, next part, we're going to add our next meat. And in this case, that's going to be the raw shrimp. Keep in mind, the crayfish and the sausage are already cooked, so they don't need to cook anymore. Put the shrimp in there, and we'll turn that in as well. And this is starting to smell absolutely amazing. Now, if you hadn't noticed, I like a lot of meat in gumbo. And like I said, this was my dad's favorite version of my gumbo. So if you're not a big meat person, I mean, you can cook vegetable gumbo. You can cook gumbo with anything. I've made duck gumbo. I've even made venison gumbo before. So pretty much any meats can be used. But this was my dad's favorite, and that's why I'm making it this way. And he and I both liked a lot of seafood and meats in it. So anyway, the next step, we're going to add the andouille, the oysters. The crayfish will go in almost last because they'll cook like that. And then we'll put the okra in, blend it all together, and let it simmer for about an hour. And also we'll put a bay leaf in right as the time we put the okra in. Okay, we're going to add the sausage. Also, we're going to add these oysters. Now, there's liquid on the oysters. You don't have to add the liquid if you don't want to. I'm just going to put it in there because it's nice salty brine and just tastes good. I'm also going to add some more filet at this point, and a little more of the Tony Chachere's. Now, I do recommend before you do this that you taste your broth and see if it's how the flavor profile is. I know how much it takes for me, so I don't necessarily need to do that, but I do recommend it. The oysters will cook up in just a couple of seconds. They really just add a different texture, mouthfeel. As you can see, the shrimp, if I pull one of these up, the shrimp are done. So I'm at medium-high heat right now, and I'm going to go ahead and add the crayfish with the liquid that they came in. I love crayfish, by the way. If you've seen my episode on crayfish etouffee, I love crayfish. Okay, so we're going to add a bay leaf or two, or 3 apparently, and I'm going to start putting okra in this. And I will probably cut up some more okra because I've got about 10 ounces here, and I'm really going to need a little more than a pound. Once you get the okra in, all you're going to do is just stir this in together. The okra will thicken it quite quickly. So once again, you're going to want to check your thickness and see if you need some more water. I am going to add a little bit here. And then you're just going to let this simmer for about an hour. And then you better make some rice because it's time to eat.